Now, one of the more exciting and yes, nerve-wracking things about film photography is testing out a new film stock. Now, if you're like me, you get recommended a film stock online or from a friend, and you do all this research online to try and understand what the film stock is going to give you in your final images. And with the cost of film and developing nowadays, it's always a bit of a gamble to try out a new stock and see what you're gonna get. I've gone through so many different film stocks, ones that I've been surprised by and ones that I've been disappointed by. And truthfully, up until recently, I was making one crucial mistake, and that was trusting the film stock and the film stock alone. Now, yes, obviously all these different types of films, Kodak, Fuji, Ilford, they all have a certain look and different color sizes that are baked into the film. But it's not the only thing or even the most important thing when it comes to film photography and your final images. The truth? What happens after your shoot is equally as important as the shoot itself. Let me explain. Now, I recently decided to shoot a roll of Ilford FP4 black and white film. This is a 125 speed film stock, and from my research, from all the research I did online, I was expecting more flat, classic tones with lots of dynamic range. But the images I got back were very punchy, very contrasty, and much more dramatic than I thought they would be. And luckily, I love them. But it begs the question, why do my pictures look so different than all the example images I saw online from the same film stock? So I reached out to Formosa Film Lab down here in the south of Portugal to see what went on with my film scans and why they turned out the way that they did. Now again, I actually love the final images that I got, but I really just wanted to understand why that happened and why it was so different than the examples that I was seeing. And what they taught me really changed my whole view on film photography. Now, I will preface this whole thing by saying that I am not a professional at film developing, film scanning, anything after the fact, anything after this guy and me shooting the image, I am not a pro at, but based on what I've learned and based on what I've done research with, there is a lot more that goes into your film images than just the film stock and the camera. In fact, these two things are what most people fixate on when they go and choose a combination of film and camera to get a desired look. But the actual final image is shaped just as much by the lab, the developer chemistry, the scanner, and the way that you meter and expose your shots. So like I mentioned, I shot this roll of Ilford FP4 thinking that I would get a much more soft, much more evened out dynamic range, more grays and less punchy contrast, and what I got back was basically the opposite. I was genuinely shocked, but in a good way, because I really did love the images. They looked much more editorial or high fashion than more casual film. So here are some things that Formosa Film Lab told me about my film scan. First up, the developer chemistry matters. For my film scans, they used Kodak HC110 as their developer chemistry, which they said out of all the chemistries that they use offers a bit more contrast, especially for this film stock. Again, something that you and I, as casual film photographers, might never know. The second is manual agitation, which gives you more contrast control. And to keep it simple, the more aggressive agitation, the more contrast you're going to add to the images. Again, agitation, something that you're not going to have control over as somebody that just drops their film off to a film lab to have your photos developed. Next up, number 3, were actually my lighting choices that made a huge difference in the final look of the images. Now, I kind of did know this going into the shoot. I shot all these images in basically high noon, bright, sunny daylight, so I already knew that the contrast was going to be high in the image, but I thought that Ilford FP4 would offer a much more subdued, less contrasted look, even though I was shooting in a very contrasty setting, and, well, I was proven wrong. And that's okay, because again, I love the images. So even though we're talking a lot about the film lab here, sometimes it's not the lab at all, and it's really just your vision and your lighting execution. Number 4 is metering. Now, in film photography, metering is always important to make sure that you get correct exposure for the film speed that you're using, but it's especially important when shooting black and white over a color film stock. Black and white film stocks don't have the same latitude that color film stocks have, so it's really crucial that you meter these images correctly. And on that note, the owner of Formosa Film Lab gave me an incredible tip to help expose my black and white images properly. He said that in any given picture, he likes to meter for the shadows. Let's say the shadows are metering at 1/60th shutter speed, and then meter for the highlights, which in this example, let's say they meter at 1/250th of a second. You find the average between the two of those, which in this case would be 1/25th of a second, and then you add a stop. So meter for the shadows, meter for the highlights, find the average, and then add a stop, and that is at least this guy's perfect formula for getting good exposure on black and white film stocks all the time. Now me, I haven't tried that out yet personally in the field, but I definitely am going to, and if you have, or you've tried something similar, let me know down in the comments below. And then last but not least, number 5, the scanner. And the scanner has a huge impact. Now, to the best of my knowledge, there's 2 main scanners that most film labs use, and they're either the Noritsu or the Frontier. Now, for my images, they used the Noritsu film scanner, which they said offers more contrast and more sharpness, but slightly more grain. And they said that for Ilford FP4, they prefer the Noritsu film scanner over the Frontier. Even if the Frontier might offer a bit less grain, it also doesn't offer as much contrast or as much sharpness. Now, if you're lost, so am I. This is why I'm making this whole video, to show you guys how much goes into a final film image beyond just these 2 things right here. Now, I will say that scanner preferences are subjective, and they are going to differ from every single person that develops film and every lab, but they do matter massively when it comes to the final look of your images. Okay, recap. What actually matters when it comes to your film photography? Well, as you just learned, a lot of things. First and foremost, the camera and lens combination you use is going to help you achieve a certain look when it comes to focal length, perspective, bokeh. The film stock, yes, it still matters, has a very important baked-in color science that is going to give your images an overall look. That's why you have people that love Portra 400 or Fuji Superia or Kodak Gold. Metering and exposure is always crucial for film photos, especially with black and white film stocks. The developer chemistry is super crucial. Manual agitation is going to give the lab more control over the contrast, the scanner that the lab is using, and of course the human element, the style and preference of the developer themselves. And then one final variable we haven't even talked about yet is your communication with the lab. Now, in my experience, the bigger the lab, the less communication you can have directly with them, because they're scanning and producing thousands and thousands of rolls every single week, and yours is just another one in the pile. But if you do have access to a really good high-quality film lab that is a bit smaller, and you can talk directly one-on-one with the team that is going to be developing your photos, then you can really work together to get a desired look. So what I recommend is, yes, do your research on what film stock you want to use and get some example reference images, but don't just rely on them, because they might not actually turn out how you think. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you guys liked it, give it a thumbs up, and leave a comment down below what you want to see more of on this channel. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button, and until next time, I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace.